Hi guys, and welcome to today's episode of Dermatology Masterclass. We're going to be starting a series on how to achieve healthy and beautiful looking hair starting from the scalp. Now, the scalp is uniquely supplied by many sebaceous glands. These are the oil glands that produce sebum, which helps to moisturize your hair shaft so that it looks glossy and smooth, preserving the health of the cuticle. However, there are certain conditions that can occur on the scalp that can affect both the quality as well as the quantity of your hair. You may have heard of the term androgenetic alopecia, or AGA for short. It is also known as female pattern hair loss in women and male pattern hair loss in men. Now, how does this relate to the oil glands, you may wonder? Well, what actually occurs in AGA is that over time, miniaturization of the hair follicles occur. This is predominantly due to genetics. So if you have a family member with a history of pattern hair loss, you may be at higher risk of acquiring that later on in your life as well. So hair miniaturization is essentially the process whereby the strands of hairs that grow out from your follicles over many decades actually become finer and finer until they are what we call miniature. Now, this is really relevant because while you have less hair on your scalp, you still have the same number of sebaceous glands, which is responsible for individuals who find that their scalp actually gets greasier with age. It could really be that they are experiencing some form of hair loss, and hence there is increased sebum that is left on the scalp, which previously would be regularly distributed across all the hair follicles and the hair strands. So the question is sebum actually good or bad for the scalp? The answer is that an appropriate amount of sebum is actually necessary for the scalp to maintain a healthy microbiome. Seborrheic dermatitis itself doesn't cause hair loss, but what is troubling is that it can disrupt the hair cycle, which means that because of chronic inflammation, more hairs are pushed into the falling out phase, the telogen phase. And the hairs in the anagen phase, which is the growing phase, may not be able to catch up, and that way when there is a negative balance, you find that you have overall thinning of the hair observed. That's the commonest scalp condition that I see in my dermatology practice, but we should also touch briefly on other types of scalp disorders that may deserve our attention as well. So I want to also share about a certain type of scalp eczema that's due to excessive dryness that can be caused most of the time by the use of inappropriately harsh shampoos. It can be caused by chemical treatments such as hair dyes. It can be triggered off by an allergic reaction to a hair dye or certain chemical treatment that's performed in salons. So when that happens, you sometimes also see associated breakage of hair at the roots where the chemical was in contact with the scalp. Now, it is far more common though for us to see a type of scalp eczema that's related to atopic eczema, which is a type of endogenous eczema. So these individuals, they are actually born with a certain susceptibility to dry skin. So there usually is a family history, there may be a personal history of sensitive skin, allergic rhinitis, having sinus problems, and also asthma. So that is what we call the atopic triad. The key here is to avoid astringent shampoos, which dehydrate the scalp. It can result in flaking and increase susceptibility to external allergens and make your scalp more sensitive, resulting in uncomfortable sensations and also cause flaking. Now, for the big ticket question, do amino acid cleansers cleanse as well? And especially when it comes to the scalp, which has thicker skin compared to the rest of our body, and is also supplied by more sebaceous glands, and having oily scalp problems is actually pretty common. And the answer is a resounding yes. Well, in many consumer studies, the cosmetic acceptability of a product, and especially cleansers, is an important aspect that is considered. So amino acid surfactants, whether used in facial cleansers or in shampoos, are actually very effective in terms of performing a degreasing sort of effect on the scalp, and it leaves the user feeling cleansed and refreshed. Apart from that, it is important to consider other active ingredients that's present in your shampoo that can help to minimize your chances of developing any of these scalp disorders. So most importantly, we want to maintain a healthy scalp microbiome, and that, as we mentioned before, has to do with the balance of microorganisms on your scalp. So zinc pyrethone is actually an active ingredient that has been very well studied in terms of its ability to inhibit dandruff. That's because it is fungistatic, meaning that it actually reduces the growth of the fungal organisms. On top of that, it also has sebum regulation properties. And this also brings me to the point of using an appropriate, gentle, yet effective cleanser for your scalp, even if you have oily scalp problems, rather than a very astringent cleanser, because your scalp, just like your skin, may be prone to a condition known as reactive seborrhea, where excessive paradoxical production of oil can occur when you strip the skin or the scalp completely dry. The copper peptide shampoo has actually been formulated to address many of these common scalp conditions. It has, first of all, a unique lathering base, which is based off amino acids. Amino acid surfactants are far gentler than the traditional lauryl sulfate counterparts. So if you look at the ingredient list of your shampoo, well, 95% of commercially available shampoos contain either sodium or ammonium lauryl sulfates. And these are actually safe for use on the skin and the scalp, but really depending on how high the concentration is. So if it has been listed as the top ingredient or the top few ingredients in your cleanser, then you can be certain that it's present in a rather high concentration. So many people have asked me if an expensive shampoo is different from one that is cheaper. And well, the honest answer is that it's very likely due to the ingredients that are being used to form the cleansing base. Now, lauryl sulfates are essentially forms of detergents anything that foams up, from your dishwashing liquid to your body soap, all contains some form of a lathering agent. The lather is very important when you are cleansing because you essentially want the bubbles or the foam to form in order to grab the excess grease, the dirt, the grime off surfaces before physically rinsing it off with water. So cosmetic formulas have obviously advanced, but it is still the most common lathering agent that we find in cleansers, and it's the same for shampoos. Amino acid surfactants, they are far more pH balanced and are definitely tested to be gentler on the scalp and on the skin, which is also very relevant if you are suffering from facial eczema. Sometimes it could be your shampoo that is exacerbating the facial eczema. So all these are important points to consider. And it's also relevant that it produces equivalent amount of foam and also leaves your scalp and your skin feeling cleansed. Well, that's it for the first installment of my masterclass on hair, and we have covered the basics of scalp health, starting with the roots of your scalp and also in terms of maintaining and understanding your scalp microbiome.